MDV, Matt DellaValle, welcome back to the Active Life podcast.
Dr. Sean, thank you for having me. You don't have a cool little acronym nickname that I can throw back at you, but maybe someday.
I don't, but they used to call me Stooch.
Stooch?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too good.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is that now I hear like my cousins I'll be at my cousin's place and their friends will be over like, Stooch. And I'm like, stop, that's not his name. That is mine.
That's like calling your name over the music at Minnesota's in Long Beach. Stooch, grab another round of kamikaze shots and bring them over.
Minnesota's, man. For those of you who don't know, Minnesota's is the place that you go if you are, at least went when I was there 5-6 years ago, if you were prepared to have a high conflict conversation with a stranger who was more drunk than you. So Matt, I think one of the reasons I enjoy having you on the show, one of the reasons I value you as a friend is because I think you're smart and I think that you're articulate. You're welcome. I think that you're articulate and you are comfortable going to places in conversation that other people who I'm friendly with or friends with are not. And so I think that I get more out of conversation with you than I get out of conversation with many people.
That's really nice to hear. I appreciate that, and I think the very same. You challenge me in a lot of ways. You make me think about different angles or different perspectives that I might not necessarily go to on my own. And, I think that looking back on just how I came to know you in the space, I originally was a little bit, and you might share this opinion or not, but I was originally a little bit put off by some of what you were saying because at first I felt like it was an attack on the things that I do and the things that I believe and how I had made my way in the functional training space. And this, I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years ago when I first started to be turned on to Active Life and Dr. Sean and the personality online. And even back then we had some conversations and we had some conversations that I thought weren't contentious, but we definitely had differences of opinion. But over the years, as I've gotten to know you, I've come to really embrace the conversations and respect you a ton for standing up for what you believe and having an articulate way of communicating it. And then also having some real good backing and logic behind why you might believe something. And maybe we don't always come to the same end kind of conclusion on things, but we often share a lot of the same type of thought processes or maybe even some of the same values that bring us to a shared respect for one another. And even if we end up disagreeing, we can still have a productive conversation. So I've enjoyed our relationship as well, Sean.
I think it'd be a boring world if we ended up agreeing on everything.
You know what? I feel the same way because this is what gets me about people who get into fights at sporting events. Like if you go to a Mets game and they're playing the Braves or whatever, or even like you go to a Mets game and they're playing the Yankees and people get into fights in the stands. It's like, do you know how boring this would be if everybody just rooted for the one team that you pick as being the team that you are going to yell at somebody or degrade somebody or, pull them down? And I think that there's some carryover here into where we spend a lot of our time in the fitness space where, people get so wrapped up in their beliefs. They get so kind of tied to a thought process or something that they know is true. And then they for the life of them can't see that there might be another way to approach something, or there might be a difference of opinion, or, whether or not they ultimately deem that there's value to those opinions is a whole nother story, but they can't even see that there's another way to look at something. And I think that's one, obviously very closed-minded, but two, it's so boring.
Well, I've been that person. And frankly, not in the 5-6 years ago when you started finding my content, and we'll talk about that in a second. But even before that, it was when I would go into a conversation with somebody who could potentially teach me something without realizing it was an opportunity to learn, right? I'm going to argue with this person about what I believe is true. It was going into the conversation with the intention of having them leave saying, you're right. Instead of going into the conversation with, these are the things that I believe to be true now, I'm interested to hear if this person can move me on them, because if they can move me on them, I've advanced as a human. I've advanced in my own understanding of what's important to me. And I'll share an example of that. When you did start finding my content, let's say 6 years ago, I was more brash than I am now. And I'm still more brash now than I believe most people are comfortable with. And that's the interesting thing about it is I hear from people on a regular basis, like, you don't need to be so straightforward about things. And I'm like, man, I am trying so hard to be the right blend of straightforward and empathetic so that you can hear it in a way that is non-abrasive to your psyche. And I still have a ways to go. So an example of that is I remember in 2019, I was really, really, really up in arms about the 4/9 pay model for coaches. Where if, for people who don't know, if a gym pays a coach, $25, $30 to coach a class, and then they pay them 4/9 of what a personal training session that they would sell is. I didn't know anything about what the 4/9 model was. I just heard that's what it is. And I was like, this is terrible. And I made a world of posts that I actually found very amusing to make about why it's a terrible product. And clients of mine started reaching out and saying, our gym still does this and you're bullying me. And I remember getting that text, and I pulled my car over on a drive to Boston for a seminar in Invictus that we were going to give. And I made an apology video. I never made a post like that again about that topic. What I've come to understand about that topic is the goal is that all of your payroll in the gym ends up being 4/9 of total income or less, including everything. Now, I still don't necessarily agree, but the way I would talk about it would be much more welcoming to somebody who is doing it, where here's why I believe it's a problem. Here's how I believe you can tweak it so that you still get the thing that right now you are getting and need to continue getting. But it still ends up being like, I still have people who are upset with me on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think the set and the setting matter a whole lot too, because if we're talking about expressing an opinion in a conversation and behind closed doors, or even, you run into somebody at a seminar and they ask you what your opinion on, the 4/9 model is, or whatever topic we're talking about, I think the perception of the opinion in that setting is much different than going out there on social media, where you have, obviously, you're trying to make a splash with the post. You want people to have eyes on it. You might word it in a way that even if you said those words in person, they wouldn't be perceived in the same way that they're perceived on social media. You say something on social media with some characters and text and a caption, and if you're not careful, those things can come off in an extremely brash, abrasive, and kind of one direction type of way. But even if you said those same words with a different tone in person, the conversation would be a lot different. So I also believe that, you and I both, me less right now, I've taken a little bit of a step back from my kind of stance on social media, but you and I both share a lot of opinions about what we believe in fitness and coaching and nutrition and wellness in general on social media. And sometimes those opinions are shared in a way that, we kind of know that we're poking the bear a little bit there. And we're doing so in a way that hopefully we're opening some people's eyes that there might be something to question here. There might be a difference of opinion. We might say it in a way that we're trying to get people's attention. But I think that social media kind of causes a lot of issues for people because they don't have the additional context behind it. When somebody looks at that and they're running that 4/9 model, and they immediately might get offended, or they immediately might feel like you're bullying them, or they immediately might feel like, oh, this guy's such an asshole because he's just always coming out throwing haymakers at me, and I'm just trying to do my best over here. And I think that there's a tension there.
Well, if I was going to do that whole campaign again, and maybe I will, I would, instead of running with like the 4/9 model as a wrestler with his balls on your head and, you know, paying staff in a way that is mutually incentivized is winning the gold medal at the Olympics. I might run a series of posts that say alternatives to the 4/9 model. That is productive. That's like, because I imagine that there are people out there who are running a model like that who are saying, this isn't what I want to run. I don't want to be thinking of the people who work in the business as purely dollar signs that need to be kept under a certain amount of money for us to be successful. That's not what I want. I would love a better way to do it. And I think that if I was able to, I think that the more abrasive, I'll speak personally for myself, the more abrasive I am, the less articulate it means I am about that topic. Because if I can be articulate about a topic that I believe is valuable and important to talk about, I don't need to be abrasive about it to get attention and have people sharing it. If I can speak about it eloquently, they're going to find it. They're going to use it. The abrasiveness to me is, it's a sign when I look back at stuff that I was still a little bit immature in my thinking.
I don't know if I fully agree there, because I think that in the very crowded world of social media, you know, especially when you're establishing yourself or when you're kind of building up a following or you're trying to build a name for yourself, being abrasive or being more kind of, I don't want to say fundamental, but being more direct about your opinions, I do believe that probably is helpful in getting people to go, oh, I really agree with that, or I vehemently disagree with that. And on either side of the equation there, I think that the opportunity for engagement is higher. I think less people are going to look at something that kind of straddles the line or maybe has a more articulate stance. Like, you've taken the time to actually walk people through the nuance of your opinion. I don't believe that as many people are going to look at that and go, oh, this is really resonating with me to the point where I want to share this, or I want to tell somebody else about this. And I want to comment here on to this person about, hey, whether or not I fully agree or whether or not I fully disagree. And I'm kind of extrapolating here about the world of social media, in which I in a lot of ways, that's bullshit. That's not real life. That's like not the way that you want to live your life or express your opinions.
Which isn't the world. Which isn't the way. Which one isn't the way? The super direct, right. Very kind of abrasive way of like, you wouldn't walk up to somebody on the street. If you walked up to somebody on the street and you knew that they were running the 4/9 model, and you're like, that 4/9 model is garbage. And like, that's essentially what you said. And then you walked away. That's being an asshole. Yes.
But on social media, like, if you posted something about saying, hey, the 4/9 model is garbage, and then maybe in the caption you had a little bit more nuanced explanation in which you kind of tease people a little bit about what your actual kind of nuanced opinion might be. I think in that situation, maybe there's still some tinges of being an asshole there, but like, you're doing so in a way that you're trying to open people's eyes with the understanding of the platform that you're expressing this opinion.
Maybe. Let me ask you this, because
Sure.
You mentioned to me before we came on that you've taken a big step back from social media.
Yes.
Why?
A couple of reasons. So I had made it a goal of for myself back in January of 2020. I had joined Instagram. When I talk about my social media presence, I'm exclusively talking about Instagram. I have a Facebook profile, but my Facebook profile is exclusively meant to communicate with members of the NC Fit Collective and members of the NC Fit app in those dedicated groups. I have no friends on Facebook. I literally have 0 friends on Facebook. And it's actually the most liberating thing in the world to not go onto that platform and see that it's 10,000 people's birthdays who I really have no connection to anymore, or feel the obligation to say, hey, hope you're doing well. Happy birthday. It's been 30 years since I've seen you. The downside of it is that there is a part of me that misses the connection with some of those people who I have lost touch with. And I also am just forgetful in terms of people's birthdays. So it was a good reminder to hop onto that platform and be like, hey, whose birthday's coming up? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But in January 2020, I decided that I was going to take a fledgling Instagram profile, which had like 2,000 to 3,000 followers that had been completely dusty and dead for years. I had not posted for like 3 or 4 years at that point. And my goal that was on my whiteboard was, I want to turn this into a 100,000 follower Instagram profile. And I started looking into ways that I could do that. Now, the reason I had established that goal for myself is that I am the chief fitness officer at NC Fit. We run a global fitness organization where we have brick and mortar gyms in the United States and in Asia with some of our corporate partners. We have an app experience for athletes that want to train with us around the world. We have the NC Fit Collective where gym owners can purchase our content and run our lesson plans and our workouts in their gyms. And I was looking at that and I was going, man, am I going to look back at this opportunity that I had with this company to do the thing that I loved the most, to be involved in fitness, to be involved in coaching development, to help create these systems and processes? And am I going to look at it as a waste that I did not get onto this social media platform and express my opinion in a way that I think I can do so powerfully because of an inherent talent that I have for words or opinions that I have, or being able to kind of show the things that I'm doing and saying and put my beliefs out there and use that as a tool to help grow the company and then myself personally. So I said, yes, I am going to regret that. January 2020 ago, I'm going to start posting every single day. And I'm going to use the tools that Instagram is giving me to my benefit to try to grow this platform, express my opinions, help people. There was also that angle to it as well. It wasn't purely a selfish endeavor. There was also this angle of, I have these opinions and these experiences from coaching all of these years that I think that there are people out there who might be wrestling with some of the same things that I wrestled with, that I want to maybe share my opinions and see how it might resonate with them. Does it help them? Does it have them ask themselves some questions? Does it have them say, no, I'm good right now. This is where I want to be. So anyway, like I said, post every day, started getting into making reels. And that went on for most of 2020 into 2021, onto 2022. And I took that profile from having 3,000 followers to about 30,000 followers in that time. And I could have done more. I certainly wasn't just like obsessively posting or being obsessed with my phone at all times. I tried to create a balance in which I felt comfortable going, this is part of my job. Having this platform is part of what I do. About 5 or 6 months ago, it just started to wear on me. It started to feel more like a chore and a time suck. And it started to feel like something that I dreaded doing. I didn't enjoy getting on there anymore and posting something that I felt obligated I had to be on to respond to comments, or I had to get on and respond to people who had differences of opinion. I also felt that I was sharing things in the professional realm that like started to bleed into the personal side of my life a little bit too much. And I didn't like that.
What's an example of that?
Just like what I was maybe going through in terms of like, my own, some injuries that I might have been going through at the time, differences of opinions and how I might be handling my own training, or like figuring out how I'm balancing my pursuit of jiu-jitsu with my pursuit of fitness. And my life also just got busier personally with, work and things that I was doing. So I got to a point where I was just dreading getting on there and creating and putting the energy and the effort, I'm wearing a shirt that says effort, into creating meaningful content. And kind of slowly over the period of 5 or 6 months, I became less and less and less active. I still have my profile, obviously. I still will make a post every now and again. I still will be active on my stories and repost things and share things, but I'm certainly not churning out content the same way that I was 6 months ago and for the year and a half before that.
It's not.
And I don't know. It's not. That's an interesting question, because if I look at this logically and I go, hey, listen, you're still doing the same job that you had for NC Fit, when you decided to make this your goal. it's still important for you to have a platform and to share things. Right now, for me, though, it detracts more personally and makes me feel some kind of way personally that I'm not ready to put myself fully into the arena and, you know, have the same kind of commitment to that posting schedule that I had.
Well, if I can kind of encapsulate what I think you said, part of the difficulty when you have a role in a company like NC Fit, or even myself in a company like Active Life, part of the difficulty is if you're spouting from the company line that this is how we believe you should train, this is how we enjoy living, and then you do that 90% of the time, or 80%, or 50% of the time, and 50% down to 10%, you do something else. But 30% of your posting content is the other something that you do, or 60% is the other something that you do, because the other stuff you've posted about for years, it's boring. People have seen you do it. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting the questions of like, so you don't even do this training? So you're saying that all of the stuff that you're putting out there, you don't even do? You just do jujitsu? Why are you telling us to do this if you don't even do it? How often do you do it? And you're like, I don't have to defend myself. I don't need to defend what I'm doing on a day-to-day. Is that accurate?
Well, I really never got questions like that,
Okay.
you know, where people were asking me like, oh, well, why do you do jujitsu now? And like, you know, you don't just solely do NC Fit workouts in the garage. Doing NC Fit workouts are still the only way that I train, aside from obviously pursuing jujitsu and being really enamored by that martial art right now.
And rucking, right?
I've kind of taken a little bit of a step back with the rucking because of, going through, like we had discussed, a little bit of a hip issue with my labrum, but I still go out and walk every single day. And listen, the personality that I portrayed on social media was me and is me. It's maximized that extra 10%, kind of like you were talking about in terms of like how you would express your opinions for the 4/9 model on social media versus how, you know, you might express it to somebody you meet in person. But listen, I eat that way. I train that way. I try to live my life that way. And when I'm talking about those things on social media, yes, that's me, maybe to a little bit of an extreme. And I think that's where, at least for me, it got to be a little bit suffocating. It just feels like I'm always sharing about my life and what I'm doing, and not necessarily being as engaged in the actual goings on of my day-to-day life, and actually like sinking myself into my work, or sinking myself into my training, or sinking myself into my relationships, or sinking myself into jujitsu. It's like every 2 fucking seconds, you got to whip out your phone and be like, oh, I got to memorialize this on a story and tell my followers about it. I was starting to question. I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. I don't have to do that right now. I'm just enjoying my workout in the garage. That's the only thing I want to do right now. And the tension between that of, this is my time now. This is my sacred space. And the goal of, hey, you also have to let people know that you do this training, it works for you, you believe that it's smartly programmed, and other people might benefit or want to train that way, or they might want to look at you as an inspiration, and you should share this on social media. Sometimes that's hard to wrestle with. Yeah. And I'm not talking about having 300 or 300,000 or 3 million followers. I'm talking about a small amount of people, but it still became something that felt heavy.
Well, I don't think the number of followers really matters. You know, the conversation I've had with several people who have smaller Instagram followings, who are like, yeah, but when I put it out there, like, no one's seeing it. I'm like, you have 275 followers. Have you ever spoken to a room with 275 people in it? No. Would you think that you can just mail it in if you spoke to a room of 275 people? Like, that, you know, that's no big deal. Like, no, that would be a huge audience. I'm like, well, that's what you have. You're just comparing yourself to somebody who has 27 million. And I give you credit for identifying that personal gap between what you must do and what you want to do. I had a recent experience where I took my family to a place called Sagamore Hill. I don't know if you've been there before.
Yeah. Teddy Roosevelt, baby.
That's right. So we went there for the 4th of July. And for people who don't know, it's where Teddy Roosevelt grew up or had his summer house. It's a 48-acre estate that's beachfront with hills and all that kind of stuff in some wooded areas. Took my daughters on their first mini hike, and there was absolutely zero cell phone reception. The phone did not come out of my pocket. It could have been in the car the whole time. And at the end of the day, I just felt recharged. You know, and once I knew the phone wasn't working, I was like, I'm not going to post this. I'm not going to share this. This is our family experience. I struggle personally with the gap of, I would rather just all social media be gone. And at the same time, I don't know how to get the messages out that I believe are important without it. And so I give you credit for giving yourself more space there. I would love to find a way to do that for myself. I would love to put the constraint on my own life, my own business, that you're going to grow the business that is so important to you and the family that is so important to you without using social media. If I had a solid plan for that, I would do it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I kind of feel similarly. You know, I think that it's been really refreshing for me to not be spending so much time thinking about what I'm going to say on this platform or even just looking at my phone. You know, there's a lot more nights now where after my work day is done that my phone just gets put down and I don't look at it at all until the next morning. And that was otherworldly to me. I mean, when I was in the midst of trying to really be active on this platform, I was checking my phone a lot. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a personal, there's a personal balance that I can strike there that would be healthier for me, in which I can put some time constraints on it, or I can say, hey, these are the times, or these are the, this is the way that I kind of interact on this platform in a certain
But that becomes stress in itself. Because you're setting those with an arbitrary design, maybe off of like, I heard some guy on a podcast say this, so I'm going to try it. And then you're like, this doesn't fit. It doesn't do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. And there's also the stress right now, even as I'm talking through this, where I think like, oh, I'm neglecting this platform that I've built, mm-hmm. or neglecting this voice that I could have. And is it hurting me professionally? Is it hurting NC Fit because I'm not out there spouting, the things that I have to say in fitness and wellness and health more regularly?
You know what
and
I think?
That's hard.
What I think is interesting about the social media platforms is the way, as we're talking about this, one of the things that occurs to me is, if my interest is in putting out content that I believe is important for the market to consume and not worrying about growing my account and interacting with people, then I don't have to do all the other stuff. I can just make the post and I can ghost. Same way Joe Rogan does it. The difference that I need to, align myself with is I don't have Joe Rogan's following.
Yeah.
And so he can post and ghost because it's almost irresponsible of him to post and stick around. When you're going to get 100,000 comments, it's like, what am I going to do? Answer them all? That's a week of work to answer all the comments on a single post.
Yeah. It's an impossible comparison to somebody like that.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah.
Because do you know this guy? It's Coach Josh Goodman.
Yeah.
Do you know who that guy is on social media?
He's great.
Seems like a really smart guy. I don't know him at all, but he also has posted about how he looked at social media and how he was treating this like an asset to his professional career, and what he was doing and the steps that he took to grow his profile from a very fledgling small following to, I believe, I haven't checked recently because, again, I don't spend much time on Instagram anymore, but he has eclipsed, I think, almost close to 100,000 followers. But he did it in a way where he was playing offense a lot on social media. That's one of the things that a lot of these coaches will talk about when trying to grow your followings. You got to play offense. You can't just sit back, post, and hope that it gets picked up by the algorithm and hope that people share it. You have to go and engage your current following, but then you also have to go out and engage other people's followings who are closely related to your following, and like talk to those followers in the comments and refer them to your profile, all this stuff. And like, that's a big commitment, man. Like, maybe it only takes you 20 minutes a day, but that's still 20 minutes that you're sitting there on your phone exploring and doing all this commenting and blah, blah. Joe Rogan does not have to worry about that.
No.
Through his career and the platform that he's created and all of the buzz that he has, like like you said, it would be completely wasteful and irresponsible for him to do any of that.
Yeah. For people's reference who want to see who Matt and I are discussing, it's Jonathan Goodman, who's the owner. You're forgiven. He's the owner of, I believe PTDC is what it's called now. It used to be the Online Trainer Academy. One of my struggles with social media, I'm curious how you would recommend I approach this, or that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is for clarification from you. I struggle personally when I see potential in people who believe that they are already hitting that potential. And I'm like, there's this whole world of things that you're not doing that you believe you're currently doing, that anybody who has done those things can plain as day see you're not doing them, and you don't even realize it. That is the area where I struggle the most. I'll give you an example. Somebody reaches out to me, and this happens almost every weekday, because I'm not really on my phone on the weekends. Hey, love that post that you made. That's exactly what we do at our gym. And then I'm always interested. Before I respond to them, I always go look at their account, at their gym's account, at their website. It's an unhealthy thing, but I will go do all of that. And my inkling is to write back, what is it that you think we do? Because there's nothing that you're doing that is even close to what we are doing or what we're talking about. And I don't write that because I feel like that would just be to take somebody who has aspirations and just stomp on them and tell them, like, have them perceive what I'm saying as you suck, which is not at all what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, I think that there's a level to this that perhaps you don't even know exists. And so you think that you're doing the thing because you don't know that the level exists. The reason I'm bringing this to you is I think of you as someone who is a very good coach. I think of you as somebody who is going to give people more than what they expect when they come to work with you. And the line between where that ends and what we would ask someone to do at Active Life is gray until it's black and white, right? Like, there's this gray part in the middle where it's, well, both people could do this. And then it becomes black and white on the edges. The black and white are, for example, we're not at Active Life going to help somebody max out their snatch. I'm not saying that that's a priority for you. We're not going to help somebody get jacked. We're not going to help somebody improve their workout times. That's not a priority for us. And on the other side, I don't think that if somebody walked into a gym that you're working with and said, my doctor has told me that I need to get stronger so I can alleviate my back pain. I've had 2 surgeries. I've been in physical therapy for 14 weeks. This is the condition that I had. I need help to specifically overcome this and return to sport. I don't think that you would say, okay, we have the plan for that. But in between is all of the people who we might both say we can and are helping. How would you recommend I speak to an audience of people like you? Because we don't want people at Active Life who are looking for us to save them. We don't want people at Active Life who are prioritizing what their CrossFit Open score is next year. Not interested. But we do want people like Matt DellaValle to find us and say, that is the level of coaching that I want to be at. That is the kind of client that I want to serve. And I do identify that I'm not doing it. All that to say, your priority, Matt's priority, is not that. I want to talk to the people who have your acumen, your professionalism, your charisma, who do want that. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Let me see if I followed. So, I was immediately thinking about kind of the sports analogy that we had earlier in the show, where it was like, how boring would it be if everybody was just a Mets fan? Mm-hmm. And maybe for the Mets organization, they go, well, I would love that, because then everybody's a Mets fan. We're all doing it this way. And we're, very successful because we're selling all this gear and everybody's coming to our games. But ultimately, like, is that reality? And two, is that really what we want? And I think a lot of these people who reach out to you and I on social media who might say something along the lines of, we love that you do this and we do it too. Or this is exactly how I think about this concept, or this is exactly how I live my life as well. I think those people are probably looking for connection with you, or they're looking for some validation. They're looking for some common bond. They're looking to say, this person who I have respect, I don't know this person, but I respect them. I look up to them. I think that they have really awesome opinions, or I love the way that they live their life, and they're able to articulate it so well on social media. And that's something that, like, I don't have the ability to do. I think those people, and this is just my own opinion, I think those people are looking for tiny shreds of connection that they can have with these people in their life who are quote unquote influencers. And even though they might say something like, we do it the exact same way here, that's what we believe, but in reality, it's not close. But for them, even that little bit of similarity, that little bit of that thing that they go, man, we do that too, and we're just like this person, that I think in a lot of ways might make their day. It might be heartening to them. It might be something where they're like, man, we're on the right path, because Dr. Sean is saying this is how they do it too, or MDV is saying this is how he thinks about this. And when I peel back the layers, and I have that reaction too, I'm like, no, you're actually not doing this the same way, or we do it differently, and that's why we are standing out. I start to feel this tremendous amount of like empathy for people. I start to feel this kind of I start to think about, wow, that's awesome that person even thought of me a little bit to reach out to say, I do this as well. And in that moment, I think the more noble thing for me to do, and the kinder thing to do, is to just say, that's awesome. I really appreciate that you enjoyed this opinion, or you share this point of view, even though they might not fully be expressing it the way that you or I am.
So I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
And I try to put myself in the same position as the person who's messaging me in a situation where I might message somebody else who I view the way that person views me. Right? Like I'm flipping the role, and I'm saying, okay, who's the person putting content out that I'm like, that is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we're doing. And if I sent them a message and said, I believe the same thing, and that's why we do this, and this, and thank you so much for being an inspiration. If they wrote back, that's not what I'm saying, I'd be like, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Right? But if they wrote back, awesome, I'm so happy to hear that, I would feel like, man, I wish that I could get more from this person. And if that person had said to me something like, do you want to take it even further? And maybe I'm talking it through right now, and that's what I need to do, is say that's awesome. Do you want to take it even further? And then offer them the opportunity to say, yeah, I do. Or, what do you mean? Fuck, thanks, Matt. I'm writing it down.
that's where the magic can happen on social media, where you can really help people, and then you can extend the conversation. You at least are extending the olive branch to have the extended conversation with them if they really want it. Because listen, let's call a spade a spade. A lot of people might not really want to do everything that it takes to get to the level that Active Life is at, or to coach at the level that we're coaching at coach at the level that we're coaching group classes at NC Fit. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of energy. It takes sacrifice. It's really easy to hit somebody up on social media and say, yeah, I do that too, or I believe the exact same thing, or yeah, that's exactly what we do and why we do it. But a lot of those people might also not be willing to take the next step. Maybe you're going to extend that olive branch to 10 of them, and 3 of them are going to take you up on it. The other 7 are going to let that message just kind of dwindle off into non-existence anymore. They're going to be happy with just identifying with this small shred of commonality with you. Mm-hmm. And that's okay too. They don't necessarily have to take the next steps after that. But, in our own heads, when I'm thinking about, this commonly comes up in nutrition a lot, where people go, oh, I want to look like that, or I want to eat like that, or I eat just like that. And, a lot of people say that, but then aren't willing to make the same kinds of sacrifices, or the discipline to implement the plan isn't there. And it doesn't mean that you have to shit on them, mm-hmm. but it certainly means that you can look at the situation with a clear eyes and go, well, a portion of these people, they just want to be seen. They just want to be heard. They're just trying to have that connection. That's okay. But maybe there are a small handful that actually want to take it to the next level.
Well, I think this is one of the really high values of podcasts for me. And this is why I like to do a nice blend of interviewing guests who I respect and talking to myself. Because just talking that through with you, it was for me, I'm able to say, do you want to take it even further? Is such a simple thing that I can always add to the end of, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing this with me. That makes it welcoming for anybody to send that message to me, and opens the door for them to decide if they want to go further. Maybe they didn't even realize that they could, and they're like, further? Yeah. What? So I appreciate you letting me bounce that off of you. That was cool.
No problem. I'm glad that we got there. It's helpful for me too. It really is, because I don't think that I'll be dormant on social media forever. I probably will come back in some way, shape, or form, and hopefully strike a better balance for myself with that platform, because as much as I agree with you, like you said earlier, I sometimes wish that it wasn't a part of our lives, and it's impossible to decouple it from our lives right now, because it is so deeply entwined. These supercomputers that are in our hands at all times are almost a necessity for people to interact, or to kind of have a voice and a platform on social media. But I kind of wish that there was a world where you didn't have to have that.
What's interesting about it is I imagined that world, because we were too young to be alive as entrepreneurial people before that world came around. And I bet in that world, they were like, man, how cool would it be if we could just put this out at the touch of a button?
They wanted it that.
Yeah. I feel like the alternative is just acquiring publicity in a way. And then I'm like, I think about, and I've considered this for years, hiring a publicist. And I imagine the publicist would say something like, where can they find your kind of thread of belief, right? Where can they find your persona, your information, more about you, connect with you, all that kind of stuff. And I bet that if I didn't have a social media account, it would be, well, what do you want me to do? Send them to your company's website? You want to just get on TV shows and then do what? Just be on? Is it just fame for the sake of fame? It's such a long philosophical question that I've asked myself so many times, because one of the things that I ask often is of myself and of my mentor. I had a conversation with my mentor about this on Monday. What do I need to do to really break through in a way that people understand the value of the work that we're doing? How many coaches need to make $100,000 who were previously making less than 25 before people say, oh, that's a big deal? How many clients need to be able to reclaim physical freedom before people are like, yeah, that wasn't happening anywhere else? How many gyms need to be able to create careers for coaches and those opportunities for their members with profit for the gym owner before everyone's like, yeah, this is viable? And we're opening our own space. Now you know about this. We've talked about it. How successful does that need to be before people are like, oh, and that's what they all feel like false peaks?
Does that all solely rely on what you view as your goal or mission in fitness, in the fitness world or realm, and then also what your own satisfaction level would be with that, in terms of like, I'm okay with changing the lives of 200 gym owners. I'm okay with changing the lives of 10,000 athletes. I'm okay with helping 5,000 coaches earn that benchmark of $100,000 a year. Like, does it have to be everybody, or
no?
Where are the numbers?
Good question. Good question.
Where do you reach satisfaction?
It shouldn't be everybody. Let me start with that. It shouldn't be everybody. What I aim for is everybody views it as an option. And right now, I believe most people don't even know that it is one. Despite the fact that we have it, if our team is fucking awesome. They really are. We had some of the staff out this week to go over stuff at the site for the new location. I'm like, I don't have to do anything. These people are fucking killers. This is great.
It's a good feel.
Yeah, it's great. And the same is true for, our coursework, our mentor. We over-deliver our balls off. I know that because I know what we used to do and I know it used to work. And I know that if what we have now existed when what we used to do was what we used to do, I probably never would have started. I would have just sent people. Who am I kidding? Of course I would have. But the point is, what we're doing now is categorically incomparable to what we used to do. I don't want everybody to do it. The same way I don't want every doctor to go all the way to becoming a surgeon, because not everybody needs or wants a surgeon. I don't want every coach to become an ALP. I don't want every gym to transition to an active life model. I don't want that. What I do want is for the individual in the world who needs an active life professional to be able to find one with ease. What I do want is for coaches who want to work in any kind of a gym without even taking our education, to have the leadership that they work for understand how to treat them like a human, inspire them both financially and through the way that they can service the members of the business, and grow the industry. That's what I really want.
Do you think that that's a little bit of like a chicken and an egg kind of problem? Because
yeah, we have we have to solve both.
Yeah, because like we're kind of we both came out of the CrossFit functional training space.
Well, not really. I spent the middle in that space, but I came out of personal training in a commercial gym setting.
Gotcha.
And I have more years of my career in that than I do in CrossFit.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you as the head honcho at Active Life and your team are thinking about the pool of gyms and coaches that you guys are casting your rod into, who are the people that are in that pond?
Are we talking about the coaches or the gym owners?
Both.
right now, anybody with a certification, that's the pool of coaches, and the pool of gym owners are what we're actually starting to think about as people who don't own a gym yet. Mm-hmm. We're starting to think about people who are like, the reason I don't own a fitness business or a health business is I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it like that. I would love to set it up from the very first day like that. What you're doing in Long Beach, that's what I want to do. It's, believe it or not, way harder to transition a business from being boutique, from being commercial, to being active life, because of the emotional, relational strain that occurs. Mm. That is harder than it is to say, start a new one. You know you're going to spend $200,000 before you make one. You know that. Yeah. It's different than going to someone who is currently counting on the $4,000 a month that they're able to take home from their business and say, we're going to flip this entire business upside down, fill it with mostly new people, generate more revenue, and you're going to be happy when it's over, but the middle is going to suck. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Like, I'm trying to get to the root of, like, all right, you're saying that if you want to attract people who have never owned a gym before or have never been involved with a CrossFit affiliation or whatever, in my view, then, you guys at Active Life, or if that was our end at NC Fit, we would have to develop such a strong brand, such a sprawling brand, such a well-known brand, such a well-respected brand in the space, that people who are on the fringe, those outlier people who are like, yeah, you know what, I've been interested in this stuff, I've been doing this, I've been training, maybe I went and got a certificate a while ago, but I'm not really sure which direction I want to go. They have to line you and us up against these other big options that are out there, these other big brands, and they got to go, that guy over there, Active Life or NC Fit or whatever, that's the way that I want to go. That, to me, seems like, all right, well, you have to have a super well-established, well-oiled machine to be that option in that lineup, versus where, if we're talking about growth that is happening through kind of conversion, organic conversion, where we're playing in a space where a lot of people know us in this niche community. If you asked people within the CrossFit community, hey, have you heard of Active Life? You go to the games, you talk to a gym owner, have you heard of Active Life? Have you heard of NC Fit? They go, yeah, I've heard of those guys. They're great. Those people might be more open to exploring what we both do because of that intimate knowledge of us being kind of in the space with them, as opposed to if you just walked up to a personal trainer in any Gold's gym, you say, hey, have you heard of Active Life or you heard of NC Fit? And they go, no, I haven't heard of that stuff.
Not yet.
Not yet. But that's the chicken and the egg issue, right?
Yeah, no, your point is well taken. The thing about, when you were bringing up my background in CrossFit, the thing that is true about my background in CrossFit is that I have a lot more exposure there than I do anywhere else.
Yes.
Despite the fact that I spent more years working in commercial gyms than I did working in a CrossFit gym that I owned, a far greater percentage of the people who patronize CrossFit as an entity, whether they are gym owners, members, coaches, doesn't matter, who know me and Active Life, compared to that percentage in the commercial gyms around the world, is massively skewed towards the CrossFit community.
Yeah.
What I've come to realize in conversations with people like you, in conversations with people like Jason Ackerman, and in conversations with followers, when I say followers, I mean on Instagram, is that I used to think I wanted to help make CrossFit gyms better. I was talking to Eric Rosa and Nicole Carroll about making CrossFit gyms better. I don't want to do that. So, I talked to Gary Gaines about it recently. I don't want to do that because we don't share values. And so in order for Active Life to be successful, we need to be able to clearly identify what our values are without comparing them to CrossFit, without comparing them to Golds, without comparing them to anybody else. And what you're describing is true. I do want people to convert. I do want people who today own a CrossFit gym to say, I don't want to own a CrossFit gym anymore. I want to go in the active life direction. I do want people who today are running NC Fit affiliates to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do that. It's the truth, right? I do want personal training departments in these commercial gyms to say, we don't want to run it the way we've always run it. We want to run it the way Active Life does it. And the trick that I'm trying to master is doing that without tearing anything else down, without comparison to, without saying these people don't do what they say they do, we do, because it's not necessarily the truth.
There's a friction there.
Talk to me.
There has to be a friction there.
What do you mean by that?
Because we're talking about a viable alternative. It doesn't mean that you're tearing it down if you're saying that Active Life does things this way, or NC Fit does things this way, or CrossFit affiliates do things this way. They're viable alternatives to one another. If you shifted your perspectives, not you individually, if you shifted your perspectives, or if you changed how you operate, if you did some retraining of your staff, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff that would go into kind of switching the quote unquote switching costs of going from one of those things to the other, then I think you have somebody who's now kind of in your camp. But, in terms of where you are most well known, your voice gets the most play. To say you're not interested in, helping in making those
better.
Making those gyms better. That seems that there's like a friction there between that and the goals of like what you want to do with Active Life, because those people in that position have the most direct access to you. So they might be the most open to the conversation of converting over to Active Life. You're going to have to spend the opportunity cost, or the cost of reaching that other customer that you talked about, that other person, that person who doesn't know you, that person who needs to learn about you, that person who has to now go and do all this research or talk to all these people and figure out, is this guy fucking out of his mind, or what's this deal with Active Life over here? You've got that credibility that's built up over here where you don't have to go through any of those hoops or the same amount of hoops to convert that person over to what you do.
So I think maybe a better way for me to describe what I'm saying here is I don't want, we used to take gyms on at Active Life who would say, we're a CrossFit gym, we do it well, and we want to keep being a CrossFit gym, but we want to assess our clients and we want to sell more personal training. Like, absolutely, we can help you crush that because we can. Like nobody has ever done it before. We can. That is no longer something we would say yes to. We have punted on hundreds of thousands of dollars of gyms coming to us asking for that this year because it's not something that we're inspired to help them do. And I've referred them to other companies. I think that you articulated without realizing it exactly the problem that we are having that I need to figure out how to solve. And this is what I was asking you about before, and I'm glad you said it the way you did it. I do believe that NC Fit, CrossFit, Metabolic, F45, Orange Theory are viable alternatives to one another, each of whom do something different, which makes them better for somebody to be there, right? I don't think NC Fit is the same as a CrossFit gym. I think that there are nuanced differences that make an NC Fit gym better for somebody than a CrossFit gym, and that make a CrossFit gym better for somebody than an NC Fit gym. And the same is true for the other brands that we talked about. The difference between all of those businesses and what would happen inside of an Active Life that we would own or that one of our clients would own at its full expression, they are not viable alternatives. You can't do in an Active Life what you can do in any one of those other businesses. and you can't do in those other businesses what you could do in an active life. Somebody who is a member for one is not a member for the other. Somebody who would coach at one would not coach at the other. Somebody who would happily own one would not happily own the other. That's what I need to figure out how to better get across. The same way that going to a urologist and going to a nephrologist, they are not interchangeable. You go for different problems. Yes, the ureter attaches to the kidney. Yes, right? But once the ureter hits the kidney, it's no longer a urologist's problem. It's now a nephrologist's problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I was going to give the same analogy with my former world, lawyering, right? Mm-hmm. You go to a corporate attorney when you have a corporate issue that you need to handle, and you go to a criminal attorney when you have a criminal issue that you need to handle. Mm-hmm. Hopefully there's not too many of those. Right. But yeah, they're very, yes, they're both lawyers, but they're very, very different lawyers. The thing is there, though, is like you go from the general practitioner who's out there, who general practitioner lawyers can go, yeah, come on in. We do a corporate practice, and hey, yeah, come on in. We do some criminal work as well. And that pool of people that they theoretically have access to is much wider. You know, they're mm-hmm. able to go out there and be Celino and Barn or whatever. Like they can put like their phone number on a billboard and say, hey, call us if you have any issue whatsoever. Versus maybe the more kind of dialed in specialist who is saying like, no. You don't come here if you have any of these 5,000 things going on. Come to us if you have this one thing going on. And I believe it can be, you said something to me a few podcasts ago that we did that really opened my eyes. Is like, and I know this, but like expressing it out loud was really helpful, is you have to know where your expertise ends. And saying no to people is actually the best thing that you can do when there's not an alignment with you, with your expertise and their goals. That is something that I believe that in the past we did not do well at NCFit, and in the current we are doing a better job at. We could still get better at that, but that's really important to do. The issue is now, how do you find that much narrower sliver of people who you want to talk to and they want to talk to you?
I'll tell you where my frustration lies around it. and it's on me. I'm aware of this. It's nobody else's fault. It's my responsibility. I believe that much of the fitness industry today makes promises that are far too broad and far too deep for what they're actually capable of doing. So while at Active Life, if someone said, I want to help people get way better at Olympic lifting, we would say, great, you should not run an Active Life. I believe that if someone went to a CrossFit gym today and said, my back hurts and my doctor told me I have to get stronger so that my back will stop hurting, they'd say, we can help you. I'm like, no, you can't. You might be able to help that person, but let's say that there's a 1 in 5 shot that you help that person. They don't leave if they were one of the 4 and tell you made me worse. They just leave. They're like, my schedule doesn't line up, because they don't want to tell you. They don't want to have that conversation. They're just going to not be a member anymore. And the awareness that I would love to create and that I would love to collaborate with these companies on is, yeah, no, we don't do that. That's when you should go talk to Active Life. And my plan is to do it in our town. My plan is, in our town, when we open, I want to build a coalition of the 5. There's 14 fitness entities in our town. I want to build a coalition with the 5 who I believe are the most self-aware and the most forward-thinking. And have every one of us understand what the other of the 5 do exceptionally well. And when someone comes in looking for what somebody else does better than each of us do, we're going to make the referral. That's the plan, right? But I don't see the industry opening their eyes to the reality that that's true for them. And this is not unique to CrossFit. NASM, runs, they have the CES, the corrective exercise specialist. Now you can do, they would say that person can do what an active life professional can do. After a few weeks of a course that you read a textbook, you do it online, you take a test, and now you're a specialist. As compared to 13 months of 2 to 3 hours a week of didactic education, assignments, quizzes, and application therein inside the gym, and a mentor you're meeting with every 2 weeks, plus subject matter experts every week on a call. We shouldn't be calling them the same thing. That's where I struggle. I struggle to talk about what we are capable of without talking about what they are not capable of. That make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that the strategy that you have in the small locality can be a winning one. But I also believe that as you go further and further out from that local epicenter and the group gets larger, it's harder to control the audience in which, we're going to have this collaborative referral type of relationship. Well, it
doesn't even need to be a referral. If NC Fit, I'll only talk about NC Fit because I know we've had a good relationship both corporately, our company and your company, and personally. If someone walked into one of your locations and was like, I can't move my arm past here, it hurts too much. If they gave you all the signs and symptoms that they were a perfect fit to be working with us, you might say, look, you can be a member, but we need to work around these things, and I can connect you with somebody at Active Life to help you with this so that you don't need to work around them long term. That's because of self-awareness. I don't think that self-awareness exists in the rest of the industry. And what I would love to see is for commercial gyms to be able to say, look, we're not promising you results, but we're promising you access to all of the equipment and all of the space that you would need to achieve them. And if you want to work with a trainer who's going to make it more likely that you get there, we have those people here too. I would love commercial gyms to say that. I would love CrossFit gyms to say, if you were an athlete once in your life and you want to rekindle that athletic spirit and get really fit at the same time, CrossFit is the best brand in the world to help you do it. I would love for them to say that. For NC Fit to say, if you're somebody who values being in a professional environment where you're pursuing your fitness and you're comfortable working really hard, this is the best place for you to come and do it. I would love to see that being what comes out on a regular basis. For Orange Theory to say, if you're fearful of lifting heavy weights and don't have any desire to be extremely strong, but you want really good cardio and base general fitness, Orange Theory is the best place to do it. I would love for everybody to be so self-aware that they could filter who comes to them simply by describing what they do extremely well, but they don't.
Yeah, the incentives are not set up for that type of behavior.
I think they are. I'll tell you why I think they are. Imagine a world where people knew exactly who should come.
That's the ideal. I think that's the ideal state. That yes, if everybody had that same level of self-awareness, if everybody was so in tune and so comfortable with who they are and what they do and why they do it, if they did not feel the pressures of the franchise owner calling up the manager and saying, hey, why aren't the numbers better this month? If the CrossFit gym owner wasn't worried about, hey, man, we lost 10 members this month, and now I don't know what to do. I can't make my rent. Those types of pressures on these people put them into a position to compromise
on their values.
What they probably deep down know is the limit of their fitness expertise, and to say, yeah, we do that here too.
Yes. And Matt, that's exactly what I want to help people overcome. That's how I want to help CrossFit gyms become better CrossFit gyms. That's how I want to help commercial gyms become better commercial gyms. That's how I want to help Orange Theories become better Orange Theories and NC Fits become better NC Fits. Because my belief is, and I'll let you get it in a second. Okay. How many corporate attorneys right now are like, yeah, man, business is so rough because we can only work with corporate business. No, the specialists in that industry are doing just fine. And I work with a lawyer who has negotiated contracts for me, sued me, right? When he was represented, that's how I met him. He represented the guy who was suing us for making a noise complaint. And he, you know, if I was dealing with something where, I don't know, I needed someone who was highly specialized, I wouldn't hire him. And he wouldn't take me. And I wish that the fitness industry could get to the same place that the legal industry is in, that the medical industry is in, where they understand I'm not the person for you. And that doesn't mean less money.
It might for some, because I think the best of the best are doing really well.
How great would that be?
But the people who are in the middle are probably trying to get themselves up to the best of the best. And the people who are struggling are probably making compromises that those people above them wouldn't make.
I think the people who are struggling, I have empathy for the people who are struggling. I've been one of them, right? And we don't want to discard all of them from the industry. What would have been really helpful for me when I was struggling was, hey, don't do it by yourself. Like you shouldn't have opened yet. You don't know what you're doing. Go work at one of these places where there's a track for you to learn how to be an owner of one of these businesses. And then go open one of these businesses. Because the owner of the one you worked in understood that you came in with the interest of opening your own one day. And so they're not going to, you know, throw you out of the nest because you're interested in being entrepreneurial. They knew why you came in. And you provided them with a benefit while you were there. That's what I long for. Because there are so many people right now who are struggling who don't need to struggle because the system is not set up in such a way for them to be successful. And the people in the middle, they do fine when the economy is good, and they do shit when the economy is shit. They're no different than the people who are struggling, except that they're further along the path. But even they're not ready to jump out yet. We spent 2 weeks writing up our mission, vision, and values for the new space. We had a full team focused on mission, vision, and values for 2 weeks. Because we need to live within those. We need to be able to make decisions as they are in existence. I think that's critical, and I think that most businesses haven't done it at all.
I would say most businesses, yeah, I would agree. And most businesses might not have the freedom, even though it might be the best thing for them to do, to spend that amount of time and energy on creating those criteria for themselves, their mission, their vision, their goals, and really honing in and then being maniacally focused on bringing those to life in the day-to-day business runnings of their business. I don't think most people in our space have the ability to do that.
I agree, and I think that that's a failing of the system. Because it's not their it is their fault in some way, but I think they all want it.
Yeah, if they could snap their fingers and they could go, ideally, how do I get from where I am to what I would want to be, to not have to go through any of the struggles or make any of the sacrifices or make any of the changes? Yeah, of course. I think that's also human nature. We want to have that kind of snap kind of fingers transition. But, you know, coming back to a place where we were before, like talking about how active life is situated in the space, like you guys are going to have to create that, just as NC Fit will have to create that for the gyms that want to participate in how we view fitness and how we run our classes. And whether or not we're pulling from a current pool of people who know us, or whether or not we're creating notoriety outside of that, I think that we don't have to be, those aren't mutually exclusive. I think you can do both, but the system as it is right now, I don't think will change. I think people within it who have established brands, who have the discipline to really go out there and to do things the right way and hold the line, to not sacrifice and not compromise your values when, like you said, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business comes your way. I think that that's what changes things for people. But not a lot of people have that discipline. Mm-hmm. Even a lot of people and a lot of brands in the position that you're in or NC Fit are in are going to go, it would be much easier just to say yes, and then deal with the consequences later.
And there are consequences later.
Of course there are. Just like there's consequences if somebody walks into the gym and they go, these are my goals. I want to be a world-class marathoner. And they come into the CrossFit, the local gym or whatever, and they go, can you help me? And a lot of gym owners are going to say, yep, we can help you. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's not true.
Mm-hmm. This was really enjoyable.
Well, I hope people enjoyed it.
Well, no,
I hope you enjoyed it.
I hope other people enjoyed it too. What I will say is this. I appreciate you holding the space for me to talk through some things that I'm trying to figure out and actually come to some next steps. It was valuable.
Very cool. I enjoyed it as well.
Matt, now that you're not on social media as much, is that still where people can find you?
Yeah, people can find me at MDV_FIT. If you want to learn more about what we do at NC Fit, we are nc.fit on the interwebs, and you can find all about all the different things that we do, whether or not it's in our San Jose-based gyms, the NC Fit Collective, or the NC Fit app. That's where all of our information's at.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Active Life Podcast. Remember, if you feel inspired by our vision to humanize the healthcare industry, professionalize the fitness industry, and empower individuals to live their lives, to reclaim their physical freedom, to develop careers, helping people reclaim their physical freedom. All you need to do is head to activelifeprofessional.com, find the appropriate link that represents you, and get in contact. We'll see you there.